Look, we're visiting small businesses in Bridgeport. Bridgeport is the largest city in our state, pretty much, and it's in shambles. I'm talking to small business owners. I just visited Chavis Bakery over here, and all of them are telling us the same thing, that they are suffering. They are struggling to survive, and we have to reverse the failed liberal policies in these towns. I think the Republicans are going to have to do a lot of work in the cities in order for us to win, and we have to provide an alternative to what's happening in these cities, including Bridgeport, Hartford, New Haven, New Britain. So I'm spending a lot of time in the cities, and hopefully I'm going to, win the primary on August 9th, and then we'll take it from there with the general election.
So what can you do in the Senate to help a city like Bridgeport?
Look, when you look at the currency depreciation, you look at the inflation, it is affecting each and every one of us, regardless of our political affiliations. So when it comes to the United States Senate, it is the only entity in the United States that shapes the president's agenda by consenting and advising the president on the Supreme Court nominations, the Federal Reserve. It's about time we do that.
Hang tight just a second. We won't be able to hear you over that.
There we go.
So the Senate can set the agenda.
The Senate can pretty much shape the president's agenda. As I said, when it comes to the Federal Reserve, which is preventing you and I from creating wealth and equity by having this currency depreciation and inflation that they are creating, I think that creating wealth and equity, it is what liberates the individual. The biggest threat to the Democrats is prosperity. If people prosper, Democrat Party becomes obsolete, and that would be my job if I go to the United States Senate, to make sure they become obsolete, because they are creating a permanent and underclass in the United States, and they want to create these voting blocks, including the cities, so they get elected and reelected. It's all about their reelection.
Let me ask you about your opponents. We watched the debate the other night. Clear difference between you and Leora Levy and Themis. I mean, Themis obviously has the most name recognition. She's been in politics a very long time. But what's your message, I guess, to conservative voters? What's your warning to them, I guess, about voting for her?
Look, when someone tells me that someone has been in politics for too long, that is one of the reasons why I believe in term limits, whether it's statewide or nationwide. But when you talk about terms being in politics, Richard Blumenthal got elected for the first time and got involved in politics in 1977. I was only 10 years old at that time. The question is, what has he done for our state since then? I'm at the verge of retiring. He's still involved in politics. That's why we should have term limits. But the clear difference between Themis and I is this. Themis is a social, liberal. She believes in abortion. She's against the Second Amendment. She's been for way too long part of the establishment in Hartford. I'm a true conservative. I'm unwavering conservative. Since I got involved in politics 10 years ago, I always maintained the position that I'm pro-life, I'm pro-Second Amendment, pro-Constitution. I believe in America first. I believe that we have to take care of our nation before we take care of other countries. And these are things that I think she and we differ majorly on both social and fiscal issues. When it comes to the other opponent, she kept, I don't even know what she stands for, because in 2012, she spoke on behalf of Mitt Romney, and she was pro-abortion. Now she's against abortion. 2016, she wrote an op-ed against Donald Trump. She's pro-Donald Trump now. She says that she never lost an election, but she lost the state Senate race in Greenwich. She says she's not part of the establishment, but all she's known for is raising money for U.S. senators and congressmen in Washington, D.C., and those are the only people who have endorsed her. So there is a clear distinction between Themis and I, and if voters want another Liz Cheney in the United States Congress, they would get Themis. If they want another Ted Cruz, they should get Peter Lumaj.
But let's talk about that, because you know where the politics are in this
Yes.
state. Don't you think that your views are a little bit farther right than most mainstream Connecticut residents?
No, because I'm the one who's going door knocking every single day. I'm the one who's talking to small businesses. I see the reception that I'm getting out there. From 2006 to present, the Republican Party has lost every statewide election. The reasons are two. I think they lost the statewide elections because always they nominated the party's favorite, with the exception of Stefanowski in 2018, and they are afraid to be Republicans. Most statewide candidates immigrants wouldn't come to Bridgeport and do what I'm doing. Most of them would be even afraid to express themselves that they are pro certain conservative principles which have made America great. I'm not afraid to do that. I'm a guy who pretty much grew up in the Bronx. I'm not afraid to come over here and tell people that I started flipping burgers when I came to the United States. I didn't speak word of English, and I'm still learning, trust me. I was able to go to college. I was able to go to law school and become an attorney. I'm living the American dream with my kids. The reason why I'm involved, and my wife, the reason why I'm involved in this race, I think this midterm election is going to be one of the most significant elections in the United States since Reagan, if not since Lincoln. When Reagan said to look at the greatness of America, we should do it through the eyes of refugees. I've seen the greatness of this country, but I see the danger, that evil ideology called socialism that is coming to the United States, and it must be defeated.
Let me ask you real quick about your background as an immigrant and also as an attorney. You've seen how broken our immigration system is. How do we fix it? Because I think a lot of people feel like, okay, just throwing up a wall and saying nobody comes in, that's not going to, I mean, you've worked the immigration system, you know that probably isn't going to work.
Look, the way it works, I believe in legal immigration. My family and I, my brothers and I, when we escaped Albania, we were processed in a refugee camp for 9 months to come to the United States legally. My mother waited for 7 years to join me legally. One of my brothers waited for 13 years to join me legally. Now, what happens with illegal immigration is that the Democrats are enticing illegals to come to the United States. It pays to be illegal in the United States right now. Even in our state, you have greater rights if you're an illegal immigrant than if you're an American citizen. For example, if you go to UK, you will pay in-state tuition if you're illegal. But if my nieces and nephews come to UConn from New York, they will pay out-of-state tuition. So we're penalizing American citizens and rewarding the ones who violated our laws. We have sanctuary cities here that the feds sometimes cannot pick you up if you committed a crime and will be deported. We give them driver's licenses without having to prove their pretty much identity. But if you and I go to the DMV and want to get a driver's license, you will be told to bring proof of address, proof of citizenship, social security card. So we're rewarding illegal immigration, and I think we have to stop that.
But in the Senate, I mean, how do you fix the system? I mean, we always
go
hear
back.
about a severe
All we
lack
have,
of judges.
all we have to do is go back to the previous policies that we had under Donald Trump. At that time, he brought illegal immigration under control. We had law and order at the border. We have to enforce the law. Whether you violate immigration law, which is federal law, or you violate some, state law, we should enforce that equally.
But
no one should be above the law.
Under Trump, we also had kids in cages, and that was...
Well, that was an allegation, is a debate that we can have another day. But absolutely, those cages were established by the previous administration. Obama is the one who deported more illegals than any president in United States history. So, and the media wouldn't report that. What Trump did, he put America first. He said, we're taking care of the American citizens, and I agree with that. America should be first. And what he did, he shut down the border and he said, remain in the Mexico policy, and if you establish that you have fear of returning to your country because of your religion, your political affiliations, or political work, then we'll give you a chance to come to the United States legally. So I have no problems with that.
So let me ask you about Donald Trump. You just brought him up. You were asked about it inside.
Yes.
Donald Trump is not popular in this state. He's not popular among Republicans in this state. I mean, 30% of them voted against him in the 2020 primary, even though he was really the only candidate on the ballot. How do you square your support for Trump with where most Republicans are in this state?
Look, we're talking about policies and individual. If I were to ask you that question, which one of the policies would you choose right now? The policies that we had under the Trump administration, when you had border security, low inflation, low prices, we could afford living in the United States. We were respected and feared in the world again, as Reagan wanted it to be. We had some great nominations to the Supreme Court. Now you look at the policies that we have right now. Which ones would you choose? I mean, if we have to be honest, you would choose the previous administration policies.
Would you prefer another Republican be president in 2024?
Of course I would. Republicanism has served America well. If I were to ask, and I've been asked this question by the media many times, would you vote for President Trump? My question is this: would Blumenthal vote for Biden again? Would the Governor Lamont, vote for Biden again? Let's ask them those questions and let me hear that. But sure, I would support a Republican who is a staunch pro-Americanism, and I believe in promoting
Right,
Americanism.
that's my question. Obviously, there's going to be a Republican primary. Trump will probably be in the field, but they're probably going to have other guys like DeSantis, maybe Glenn Youngkin, that group of folks. Would you prefer the nominee be somebody else instead of
Let the primary decide that. That's why I'm running the primary myself. I mean, primary voters should decide this. That's why between my opponents and I decided to primary them, because I don't believe that Washington or Hartford should determine the outcome of a primary. Let the voters do that. So let them decide it, and then we'll take it from there.
So since the Senate plays a key role in confirming electors, we've heard a lot from the January 6th committee about the effort to install alternative electors. If that happened again in 2024, and you're in the Senate, there's some question about whether to accept the electors that have been sent to Congress, what would you do?
Look, first of all, I'm a constitutionalist. I believe in the Constitution, and I believe in enforcing and applying the Constitution properly. But for the media, I don't think anyone else is talking about January 6th. Because when I go door knocking, I visit businesses. Nobody knows that January 6th is even happening.
But when you're in the Senate, this is something you will have to
Well,
decide.
we're not going to deal with conditions until we get there. Let's get there, and I'll apply the Constitution, and I get sworn in to uphold, protect, and defend the Constitution. That's what I would do.
Well, let me turn the question then. If you were in the Senate in 2020, and this was a question before the
It's
Senate,
still-
the Vice President had to decide whether to accept alternative electors, what would you have done?
I think the Constitution was applied properly. The Congress approved the outcome of the election. The Vice President signed off on that. And last time I checked, Biden, which is completely failing this nation, is the president.
So in your view, Pence did the right thing.
Look, I believe in the Constitution, not the individual. The Constitution was applied properly, and it must be applied properly. The only ones who believe that the Constitution is a living and breathing document are the Democrats and the liberals, not the conservatives. We believe that the Constitution was written by the founding fathers to be applied exactly the way it was written. That's why I'm an originalist, and I would never vote for a Supreme Court justice who doesn't see the Constitution that way.
Okay, that's all I have. Anything you want to add?
Well, I ask all the primary voters to get out and vote on August 9th, and I hope you give me a chance. My website is peterlumaj.com, and I hope you visit it.
Actually, I do have one more question.
You changed your mind now.
Yeah, I do have one more question. I know you've heard that people have called you the underdog in this race. Do you think that's accurate?
They called me what?
The underdog in this race. Do you think that's accurate?
Look, I'm getting a different reception out there. Look, I'll let the media call me and the others call me whatever they want to call me, but the reception out there is great. I believe in legwork, meaning that I'll go door knocking, I'll put up signs, I'll distribute signs, I'll meet with small businesses. I do not waver my conservative positions, and the reception is way greater than the media thinks it is for me out there.
All right, hang tight. We're just going to get a shot of the two of us talking.